Because remember, the modes of material nature are like different frequencies that pervade this planet. And if you're primarily situated in the mode of tamas, or ignorance, or rajas, or passion, or sattva, or goodness, that is the frequency level in which your consciousness exists. Some people say that, oh yes, I live in a house, or I live in my clothes, or I live here or there. The point of it is, where you really live is up here in your consciousness. That's where you really live, because that's how you function, and that's how you project your vision of what goes on around you and how you interact with other people. It is your consciousness. And depending on which mode of nature you're in, that's the frequency level in which you exist, and in which you perceive things, and also in which you project your personality, your actions, your activities, and things like that. So the whole point of the Vedic system, and Bhakti-yoga in general, is to reach the level by which our consciousness becomes purified or spiritualized. Because just remember this one thing: if this is all you get out of this class, then I'll be happy. The point is, the more spiritual you become, the more you can perceive that which is spiritual. Do you understand that? The more spiritual our consciousness becomes, the more we enter into that frequency level in which we're always acting and perceiving things from a spiritual perspective. And when we begin to act and interact on that level, then basically we can perceive that which is spiritual. Because remember, the material world is temporary, the spiritual world is eternal, but it also pervades everything. It's like when I was talking about frequencies. Have you ever seen a chart of frequencies? It goes from long wave radio waves, to all the way up to short wave. It includes ultraviolet, infrared, radio waves, television waves. All these different things are included. And in that big chart, it's like this. If this was a chart from that end to that end, there'd be a little section right about here where you can see the colors of black, white, pink, red, green. It's only a little fragment of that whole chart of different frequencies which exist. And that's also like the frequencies of the modes of material nature. So within those frequencies, we begin to enter into the spiritual levels so that we can perceive and interact on that spiritual dimension. And the more spiritual we become, then the more we can perceive that which is spiritual. An example of that is Srila Prabhupada. He once said that, I can see when we offer the bhoga to the deities, I can see the deities partake of the offering, but you cannot. That's the difference. He's already existing in the spiritual dimension, and we are simply looking up trying to get there. But the point of it is, if we follow this path of Bhakti-yoga properly, and if we become even a little bit successful, then we can start having a glimpse into that spiritual dimension. Most of the pujaris, for example, when a pujari has been working with the deities for years, they can usually begin to tell when the deities are happy about something, when they're not happy about something, or when something is troubling the deities, something's going on somewhere because they're not looking happy. Oh, you can tell. Yes, I can tell. The pujaris get to know the deities that way. In other words, they're beginning to see that spiritual dimension which exists all around us. So it's like the radio waves. Somebody may say, well, I don't believe in radio waves. I think you're full of poppycock, you know. But then at the same time, if you have a receiver, then not only can you pick up the radio waves, but there's so many things you can do with them. So the mind, the consciousness is like the receiver that we need to develop so that we can receive and interact in that spiritual dimension. Then we can also begin to see the deities actually interact with us or interact with those that are serving them. Sometimes people can see the deities look at the different devotees in front of them during darshan. Or sometimes other things begin to happen. And anybody that's on the path of Bhakti-yoga will definitely at some point begin to have their own spiritual experiences with the deities, or with their own understanding, their own perception of what spiritual life is all about. And that is what's expected of the Vedic path. The Vedic path expects you not to simply start with faith, but to start with faith and then end with spiritual realizations, your own spiritual realizations. It's not a religion which bases itself on faith, beginning with faith and ending with faith, which many religions do, because they don't want you to have your own spiritual experiences, because then they lose control. Many of these religions that we see today are basically political operatives. They give you enough information to think that you're making progress, but no. You cannot have any direct relationship with God except through the institution, through the church, through the pastor, or through the Vatican, if you want to put it that way. But in Bhakti Yoga especially, under the guidance of the spiritual master, you become empowered to begin to have your own spiritual experiences.